Elsie Jensen here. Tonight we are going to be cooking some crispy salmon with hollandaise sauce, asparagus, and some smashed potatoes. And then we'll also be putting our sourdoughs in the oven. So let's get those going. So we have our Italian herbs and cheese, and we're going to score it and we're going to put it in. I'm hoping it will turn out because my fridge got it a little frosty and it had a little ice crystal on it. So I'm hoping that didn't make it too cold. So this will be an experiment if it will be too cold or not. Okay, we're going to do a nice score on it. Well, it's scoring nicely, so hopefully that doesn't mean anything. And then I'll do a nice little score in the middle and some on the sides. There we go. And this is our Italian herbs and cheese sourdough. And I have my Dutch ovens. They were in the oven for the last hour at 500. So they're very hot. And I'm going to carefully lift this over. And then put this back on. And then, of course, we have our traditional, our basic one. Beautiful. It has even a nice little bubble there. Flip this guy out. Perfect. And now I'm going to do a nice score along the side. And then we'll do our little, kind of our pretty little wheat leaf or whatever you want to call it. And perfect. Let's put my oven mitt back on. And this is just our simple, basic one that we've made every time. I always like to do a fancy one, a bougie one, and then a regular one in case the bougie one isn't anyone's preference. Okay, let's pop these in the oven. They're going to cook at 500 degrees for 20 minutes with the lid on. Then we will take the lid off and cook them for another 20 minutes at 450 degrees. I've got that one. What type of bread? So we made an Italian herbs and cheese sourdough, and then we made our just basic sourdough, our traditional one. There we go. And I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes so I don't forget to take the lid off. The first 20 minutes with the lid on really seals in the moisture, so you have a really nice sourdough. And then the last 20 minutes gives you that nice golden crust. Okay, let's turn our potato water on. I already started it to get boiling, so we wouldn't have to wait for that. And I'm just using Sunburst Blend bite-sized potatoes. We're going to do a kind of a smashed potato with them that will then kind of fry up a little bit so that you can drizzle some hollandaise sauce over it, which is what I love. So I'm just going to pour these in there. They're just little bite-sized. This is a melody. So we've got red and white, like gold or like little potatoes, new potatoes. A bit bigger. There we go. And we're going to cook these until they're nice and tender. So I'm going to have it on high and we're going to let it boil. Now let's cut our salmon into some fillets for us. Normally the salmon I get, they were out, so I had to get slightly different. And there we go. And then we're going to season these guys up. And these are with the skin on. And then this one's kind of long, so we're just going to make a little funny one right here, which will cook up. So it's much thinner. This one's going to cook in like 5 seconds. And here we go. Okay. Oh, there's a bone. Now I'm going to wash my knife off and wash my hands because it's pretty salmon-y. And now we're going to season up our salmon. We're going to let it sit in its nice like seasoning for a few minutes. We're going to do a nice light sprinkling of garlic salt over the top of them. So just lightly. Perfect. And then we're going to use some oregano. And we're going to sprinkle it over again over the top of each one. Perfect. And
you have a couple questions. First question is, with the skin on the salmon, do you guys eat that? And will all the children eat the salmon?
we do not eat the skin. So after I do cook it up, and before I serve it to my kid, I just take my fish spatula and I slide it underneath it, and the skin comes off really easily. But I'll cook it with it on. It will help keep it nice and moist, and we'll have one side, the top will be a crispy layer, and then the bottom will be nice and tender. And all of my kids will eat the salmon. My kids love salmon. It's one of my kids, it was her favorite meal for the longest time. And to sprinkle some paprika over the top of each one. There we go. But yes, they love salmon. And when we went 2 years ago, we went on an Alaskan cruise with the kids, and we took them, and then we found out that the salmon we eat in America is only rated for animals in Alaska. They feed us chum here in the continental USA, and apparently that's the worst of it. But no, we had the best Alaskan king salmon there, and it was so good. We got our salmon fillets. We're going to let them get nice and kind of soak in those seasonings. And I'm going to get a little bit of lemon juice on them in just a second. But I want to get some of our lemon juice for our hollandaise sauce. So let me grab a little bowl here. And we're going to cut our lemon open, and then we're going to get a little bit of that juice. Where did my little juicer go? Is he over here? He's over here. There we go. This is my favorite juicer. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of this juice over our salmon, but I need to make sure I have about 2 teaspoons for our hollandaise sauce. I'm going to just take out these lemon seeds. So I'm going to juice this first, and then we'll use the rest on our salmon. That will give the acid in the lemon will kind of cut through the fat in the salmon and make it really tender. So I just want to make sure I have enough in here. This lemon is full of seeds. And that is, I'll need a little bit more. You know what? That's about 2 teaspoons. You'll need the lemon juice for the hollandaise sauce because it will work with the egg yolk and to kind of thicken it up. Let's get these seeds out. And now I'm just going to squeeze a little bit over each one. See, more seeds. I don't feel like lemons had as many seeds in them when I was a kid. Maybe I just don't recall. There we go. And a little bit more. Perfect. Excellent. That's going to give it a nice, lovely flavor. Let me get this spoon. I got to fish these little lemon seeds out of our lemon juice. Perfect. And what we're going to do is we'll heat up some oil, and we're going to crisp up our salmon in a little bit. We don't want to do it too soon because we want to try to get everything timed at the right side. So that's going to be for our hollandaise sauce. And now let me prep our asparagus that we will pop in the oven because we'll do a quick roast on these. This is, when I get asparagus, I absolutely love it when they're nice and thin and skinny. It's my favorite way. I'm not a big fan of the really thick stalked asparagus. I think it gets a bit chewy, but I love it. Whenever I see them and they're really thin and skinny, it's my favorite because I feel like you get more asparagus for each bite. Okay. Whenever you get asparagus, you always need to chop off about 1 inch off the stem because when they cut it to harvest it, it loses all of its liquid out of the stem, and it's just chewy, and it doesn't it will just not be good. It will be a tough, chewy part. So always cut it off, and then you're not wasting anything because trust me, you won't want to be chewing on it. There we go. Let's get our tray over here, And we're going to spread our asparagus out, and then we're going to give them a nice seasoning for our, we're going to put some olive oil. Oh, look, we got break off. If you see any of them with some white on the end, just break it off. There we go. Okay, let's spread this out. And then we're going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil over it. Now, about a tablespoon. You don't need much. And then we're going to do a little bit of garlic salt. Nice little sprinkle. And then black pepper. Now, we will also have our hollandaise sauce that we're going to be making in just a little bit, which we will be having with the salmon and the asparagus. I also like to put it over the potatoes. It's about, I want to say, between a fourth and a half a teaspoon of black pepper.
You have a question? Will the recipe be posted?
Eventually, we will get recipes posted. It's harder for us to make the recipe things, but we do post all of our videos, our lives, on like the link in our page so that you can always go back and reference it. That will be quicker than I can get recipe cards out because we've got a crazy life with our 5 kids and sports, so much with sports that it's hard for me to get those out as fast as I make the recipes. Okay, so then you get them out and you just kind of want to make sure you've got them spread out as much as possible. We're going to set this over here. We're going to throw those in for the last 10 minutes of the bread cooking so that they don't need much to do it. Okay, let's start on our hollandaise sauce, which is going to take a little bit of manpower. We need pepper. We need salt. We'll need some butter.
You have a question. Do you prefer garlic salt over garlic powder?
Yes, but I use garlic salt in place of regular salt. So garlic powder, I like the saltiness because I use it in place. Otherwise, I would use garlic powder and garlic salt. And so it kind of hits, 2 birds with 1 stone. Okay, we're going to come over here. I'm going to grab 3 eggs. I like to keep them cold for this part. So I'm going to grab them out of my fridge real quick. And we need just the yolks. So we're going to have to separate them. So if you've never had a hollandaise sauce before, it is a lovely kind of butter and yolk and lemon juice. And it's just a very thick, decadent sauce. It's very bougie. If you've ever had Eggs Benedict, that is the sauce they put on Eggs Benedict. Okay. We're going to start. I'm going to get one more bowl to put my whites in. We're going to crack. We're going to put our yolks, and then we're going to have to whisk them. I guess I had a bowl here already. We're going to have to whisk the lemon juice and the yolks together for a good hot minute. Okay, so we're going to separate our eggs, which the way I like to do it is I break it in half, and then it's just kind of like moving your yolk back and forth to get all of that egg white off. Here we go. And I'm not keeping my egg whites for any recipe, but you could definitely keep them. You can make an egg white omelet, although I'm not a big fan. Or you can make some macaroons. There's 2. And get our last one. There we go. And the trick is to try not to pop your yolk. There we go. With your shell. But it is not hard to separate. I know I've seen like a water bottle trick where you crack it and you like squeeze the water bottle and it sucks it up. But this works well. Okay, I'm going to start whisking my egg yolks. And now we're going to add our fresh lemon juice. And we're going to whisk this until it's nice and frothy. Now, there is a way you can do like hollandaise sauce with a blender, but it comes out, but it's just not the same as a hand whip. It's a good shortcut if you're pressed on time, but a hand whisking with it just works better because you can slowly incorporate the butter into it over the steaming water versus doing it all in a blender. It works a little bit better. So we're going to whisk this until It's nice. You know, imagine back in the day before they had electric mixers, having to hand whip your eggs. It's impossible. I remember in college once, and I had, like I always said, my little illegal kitchen in my dorm room because I had a toaster oven and you weren't allowed to have those. And I had a little hot plate and you weren't allowed to have those either. But my friend came over and she's like, let's make lemon meringue pies. But we didn't have a mixer. So we took turns, like a group of 5 of us girls, hand whipping these egg whites to make meringues. And it was a disaster. They'd never turned to meringue. It was a lemon curd pie with some fluff on it. Okay, see how we're getting them nice and frothy? There's bubbles being included in it, which is perfect. Okay, I'm gonna let those sit for just a second. Let's take our hollandaise sauce is gonna take about a stick of butter. That's why I said it's a very decadent sauce, but it is delicious. And you should have extra so you could have eggs Benedict the next day, which is like the best breakfast ever. I love a good eggs Benedict, or on a biscuit, not just an English muffins, or on sourdough toast, just delicious. Okay, let's turn on the right burner here. I'm gonna turn my butter on low and we're gonna let it melt because we're gonna be incorporating this. And then I've got my back burner. I'm gonna put the water on because we want it to boil because we're gonna kind of like a double boiler. We're gonna whisk it over that. Okay. It's nice and stimmy and hot. Let's get our Dijon mustard. We're gonna whip this in here. We're gonna put in about, oh, that exploded. We're gonna put about a teaspoon or half a teaspoon of Dijon mustard in here. We're gonna whip it up too. Now, you don't have to add Dijon if you're a fan, but I feel like it adds just an extra little complexity to the sauce. There we go. We don't need too much. About a half a teaspoon is all you need. And we're going to whisk it in here, and then we're going to add some pepper. If you like a bit of spice, add a little bit of red pepper. I'm going to use about, a fourth of a teaspoon of black pepper, but you could easily put in some red pepper or cayenne pepper, not red pepper. That will give you a bit of kick. But again, I'm a spice baby here. Okay. Perfect. Let's put in our little bit of black pepper here. So about a fourth of a teaspoon. And then we're going to add a little bit of salt. About a half a teaspoon. Because if you're using unsalted butter, you'd want to use a little bit more. There we go. Whisk that in there. Perfect. See how much time until? Just a few minutes until we take the lid off of that. So now I'm going to start getting ready to cook everything up. Let's get our butter. We want it to start melting so that we can whisk it in. And now let me turn on our burner here. We're going to put a little bit of olive oil in, and we're going to start kind of frying up our salmon in just a second once our olive oil gets hot. When you fry up any fish, you want to put the presentation side down first. So since we have skin on this, we're going to put the unskinned part down so the skin will be facing us, and that will crisp up first. That's going to give you that pretty crisp up that you need. Since I have a kind of a large frying pan here, I need a little bit more oil, but you don't need much because we're not submerging our salmon. We're just kind of crisping it up. And I'm going to wait until it gets nice and hot to when I put a drop of water in, it's going to sizzle. Okay, let's check on these potatoes too. See how they are warm, getting there. So I'm going to find my biggest potato because he's going to be my judge. Okay, they can go through. They need about 2 to 3 more minutes before we can strain them and do the smash. Let's get our things and melt this butter up. So if you've never made a hollandaise before, what we're going to do once we get a nice boil onto here, we're going to have our egg mixture, our lemon and egg mixture, and we're going to slowly add in our butter, and we're going to whisk it until it thickens up into a lovely rich sauce. So once these get to a boil, perfect. Okay, let's check on our oil, see if it's nice and hot.
Brenda just sent you a bunch of roses.
Oh, well, thank you, Brenda. There we go. Not yet. So you see how when I put my water in it, it didn't bubble at all? You want to make sure you have a nice bubble in it. And I'm going to add just a little bit more. If you can see right there in the middle of my pan, I have no oil. And I just want to make sure, perfect, that I have just a nice layer that goes over the whole bottom of the pan. Okay, let's clean up my area over here. And for those of you who joined us late, here are our salmon fillets. We used garlic salt, oregano, paprika, and a little bit of lemon juice over it. And we're going to do a crispy skin on the top, meaning we're going to fry them face down first, and then we'll cook them through on the other side. And then we'll serve them with a lovely Hollandaise sauce. Perfect. Our butter is almost melted. I'm doing my butter slowly because we want our butter not to be hot when we add it into our egg mixture, because if it's boiling hot, it will curdle our eggs. So we want to have it just barely melted, which is right here. So we're going to let it there. We're going to let it sit and finish melting there so I can turn off my back burner. Give this a quick whisk. Oh, I guess what? We can head over to the oven. It is about to beep. We can take those off. That way we won't be disturbed in the middle of our frying. Let me put my oven mitts on. Okay. We cancel the timer. We had 40 seconds left, which is fine. Okay. So we're going to take off. Put this lid over here. Here, I'll show you guys. Beautiful. We've got a nice pop on it. Excellent. Now, this is the one that had a little frost on it, so I'm hoping, okay, it's not bad. It popped up nicely. Beautiful. Now we're going to let it cook. We're going to turn our temperature down to 450. Now, it didn't pop. It popped well, but I think my refrigerators outside were a little bit colder because I told you how my Italian herbs one had some ice on it, a little crisping. So I think it would have popped more if they weren't as cold, but we still got a nice pop. So, you know, sourdough, the method is sourdough is very forgiving. Okay, you can see our oil is already starting to bubble, so I'm going to turn it down just a little because you don't want it too high. And now, when we cook our salmon, you want to put it in presentation side down first. So what that means is we are going to put it in with the skin up. You can hear that lovely sizzle. And I'm just going to do...
You have a question? For someone just making sourdough, they want to know if it's normal for it to be tough.
When after you bake it, if it's tough after you bake it, that means that you probably didn't do enough stretches and folds to develop the like the gluten in it, and maybe it was too cold during your first rise. So that's happened to me a couple of times where it was tough and a little gummy. So that's one. It could be that your starter wasn't fermented long enough, and so it needs to be aged a little longer before you do it. And the second one is once you mix the dough, every 30 minutes for 2 hours, you've got to really stretch and fold the dough so that it can develop the gluten in it. And that's going to give you the nice crumb. And then before you do, you'll do your bulk rise on the counter. I do mine between 2 and 6 hours, depending on how hot it is. And then I do what is called laminating, where you stretch your bread out into a big rectangle, and then I fold each side in, and then I roll it up and form it. that also helps get rid of some of that denseness. And then I put it in the fridge for 12 to 48 hours. Okay, our water over here is almost at a boil, so we can probably start doing our Hollandaise sauce. So this was 3 egg yolks, about 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, a half a teaspoon of Dijon, a pinch of pepper, and a little bit of salt. And we took our melted butter here. We needed 1 whole stick of melted butter. Again, this is a very luscious sauce. And we're just going to pour it very slowly over our thing. So it's acting like a double boiler, just a little bit at a time. You don't want to pour it all in there. You want to really incorporate it. This is where you kind of get the like elbow grease. Get to work on it. And I can see why people might want to do an immersion blender or whatnot, but.
You have a question? Does the salmon have to be room temp when you start it?
No, you can do it cold. It just means it needs to cook a little bit longer. I mean, I took these out of the fridge maybe 30 minutes before, so it wasn't room temp. If it's room temp, it just means it's going to cook up faster.
And you have another question. Is there a benefit to keeping the skin on the salmon?
I've cooked it without and with. The skin helps, I guess, when you cook the bottom side, keeps it more moist and tender versus like getting a crispy and drier side on that one. So I guess that it kind of helps with that to have a more moist inside of your fish. But I've also made really good salmon without. I will say grilling, I do find it is better with the skin on because that heat can really get to the fish. And that way it protects it. So if you burn your skin, but your fish will be great. Let's looking at it. We're doing good here. When I'm looking at my fish, I'm looking for like a nice crispy edging, like a nice brownish golden color. And when I see that, I will know it's time to flip. Okay. Let's add in a little bit more butter. And told you, a lot of elbow grease. There we go. And now I'm just whipping it over that heat. It's kind of hard with the boiling potatoes. I should have done it on my other one. You know, that's the beauty of it. I try to do everything, you know, live for you guys so you see exactly how it is. And of course, there's always going to be little mistakes here and there or things I would have done differently. I definitely would have put it over here because this is hot. Okay, let's see. I'm going to take a second away from you. Put you right over here. Let's check out you guys. See how you guys are crisping up. Oh, beautiful. Look at that nice, crispy edge. Perfect. And so what's nice about the skin is it's really going to insulate the bottom of that fish. So we're just going to provide heat without drawing out excess moisture, which will be great for the salmon because nobody wants a dry, flaky salmon. They want it to be nice and delicious. You can see our Hollandaise sauce is thickening up now. It's getting thicker and thicker. Beautiful. And we are just about done with that. I'm going to give it a little taste to see. It doesn't need any salt. It's like a nice thick, buttery, lemony sauce. It's just going to be great. So we're going to take this off the heat and we'll just stir it occasionally. We're keeping it nice and warm over there. Okay, let's get a tray for my salmon to put on when it's done. And then our potatoes, I think, are ready to do our, let's see, pull one out. See if we can put this right there. Oh, perfect. See how my fork went through that effortlessly? I can probably push it down too, no problem. These are done. Turn my juice down and we can turn this guy off. Let me grab my quick colander here. I love this guy.
You have a question? What about the asparagus?
Oh, yes. I will put those in just a second. They don't need long to cook. So those will go in once we start the potatoes. Perfect. We're done with that. We've got our potatoes here. And we're going to do a little bit of a smashed potato in here. So I'm going to put a little bit of butter in our pan to start melting. And now I'll take out this salmon and put our next ones in, and then we'll pop our asparagus in. Because again, these are thinner than the thick asparagus, which take a little bit longer to cook. So let's take these out. They cooked up lovely. And then I'm going to put these two fat guys in, and then a little bit I'll put this one in because you see that one's really thin. So that will be great for my littlest one since he won't care so much. But now let's put our asparagus in, and then we can take a quick peek at our bread because that has just a little bit longer to cook. Look at that. Beautiful. Getting nice and golden in there. Okay. So let's get our smashed potatoes going. We've got it melting all of our butter around because we want to have a nice little butter layer on the bottom. Here. And then I'm going to keep mixing our Hollandaise so it doesn't thicken up. Now, if you ever get your Hollandaise to be a little thicker, all you do is add a splash of water and it will thin it back out and it won't change anything with your sauce. So that's the beauty of it. Is it's nice that if once it's like you refrigerate it and you want to reheat it the next day, a little bit of warm water will help thin it out again. Okay.
Yeah, that would be a question. How many people are you feeding tonight? So there's only 6 left.
We have 6. My littlest one is not feeling well and he had a fever of 101. So I put him to bed early because he was falling asleep and just wasn't feeling great. And so he just had a simple dinner. He had leftovers. He had spaghetti. And so this is just for 6 of us tonight. For my smashed potatoes, I'm going to use the pot that I just cooked them in. And I'm going to lay a little bit of parchment paper over. That just makes my cleanup easier. And then we're just going to smash down.
What time is it?
It is 8:45 here. So we are night owls here. We typically eat around this time. It just fits with our schedule because with youth sports, you never get it's like school, sports until like 8 o'clock. Okay, so we got our potatoes smashed down here. Isn't it beautiful? They're going to be crisping up underneath. Give you that nice crunchiness. I'm going to give them a little bit of garlic salt on this side to season them. We're going to let them fry, and then we'll kind of do a little flip. But they're just delicious. Perfect. And now we've got, going to move. We're going to put this guy in. See, little sad one. But I hate when they give you the fillet and you have like a beautiful part here and then it's like this little flap. And I'm like, oh, could have just cut that off and given me something better. Okay. We are done with this cutting board. So let's get the fishiness out of the way. And beautiful. Giving it a nice whip because we don't want it to curdle. There we go. I might add a splash of water in it. So this is the beauty of, even if you get it like over here sitting, you take a little bit of warm water, you mix it in, and it will instantly bring it out to the nice runniness that you want. Perfect. There we go. Let's get a spatula going up under these potatoes and see if we've got a nice crispy crust on it yet. So we're starting to, let's give it a nice little flip. We'll season this side. And there we go, nice golden here. This is our kind of a It's just delicious take on like a crispy kind of hash brownie potato. Sometimes I do them in the oven, but I love them in the pan because you can get that nice little butter crunch on it. Okay, now we're just gonna smash it down as well. And then we're gonna give a little bit of salt on this side. Perfect. And then a little sprinkle of pepper. Oop, wrong side. Look at that. It popped open. Life happens. So here what we'll do. Not too bad. There we go. That's why you make sure you're screwed on. It's always like that, those commercials you always see growing up where like some kid would unscrew the salt shaker and then, oh my gosh, it falls out on your food. Let me grab my tongs here. Nice, beautiful, crispy crust on those. Perfect. And now we're gonna give a good whisk. Beautiful. Perfect. So we are almost done with dinner. Let me grab our fruit for dinner. I like to keep it in there because strawberries don't always sit well until, they're cut up. So we always like to serve fresh fruit with our dinners each night. We'll have strawberries. We had it's a mix between pineapple, cantaloupe, strawberries. I always say we go through a crazy amount of fresh fruit in our house. I was talking the other day. We go through 2 pineapples a week, 2 melons a week, 4 pounds of strawberries, 2 pounds of blueberries, 2 pounds of blackberries, 2 pounds of raspberries, and then probably 10 bananas and apples and oranges. It's crazy. I always say I buy my weight in fruit every week. So we're just going to give these all a nice slice up. But I do make sure to serve it because, I don't cook separate meals for my kids. We all eat the same meal, but I make sure that there's something on every meal that the kids like. So I always offer fresh fruit because they all like fruit. So if they don't happen to like the meal, they can fill up on the fruit or the bread or the thing that they do like. And that's way you can sort of please everybody, because one thing growing up in a big family, I'm the youngest of 10. My mom would always say, I can't please everybody. And boy, is that the truth. There is very few meals in our house that everyone loves, that they all are on agreement is a great meal. There's big opinions about certain meals. So giving them fruit at every meal and yummy sourdough, I will say. Can't say no to bread. Keeps them happy. And there we go. The worst is when you get some, a little bit bad. Okay. There. And soon we'll be able to check on our asparagus and our bread. And dinner will be served. Okay. Let's get there. And then what I like to do to really bring out the sweetness in the strawberries, and you don't need much, is just a pinch of sugar, especially when they're not in season. And when they're not in season, they lack a little bit of the flavor, but just a little bit of sugar can bring out the sweetness. And you don't need a lot. It's really like a half a teaspoon, but it gives you enough that it's just perfect. Okay, got our strawberries ready. There we go. Let's check on here. They crisping up? Perfect. Okay, let's go check. The asparagus should be done now, and I think the bread is just about ready. Okay, let's get our asparagus. Beautiful. Look at this nice, vibrant green. Perfect. So there we go, in the light better. This is when your asparagus is ready. When it has a bright green hue to it, that's when it's nice and tender. Perfect. So what we're gonna do is we'll serve up our plate and then we'll grab our sourdoughs out of the oven because they need maybe like 2 minutes more to get nice and golden brown. Let's see. Perfect. We're almost ready on here, but let me plate up our first plate, show you how we're going to eat it tonight. So let me get tongs out for the asparagus. So we'll have some of our delicious asparagus. Put a little bit more on. We'll have a nice bit of our smashed potatoes. Beautiful. And then we'll take a lovely, let's do this, salmon fillet. And then what I like to do is I drizzle the Hollandaise sauce. You're going to have it on both the asparagus and on the salmon. And this is just a lovely lemon, butter, and like custard, I would say, because it uses the egg yolk. So this, and then we'll have our fresh strawberries. But again, we'll be serving the smashed potatoes with our, herb crusted salmon where we've made our delicious hollandaise and fresh asparagus. Now it is time to get the sourdough out. So it's nice and hot, so I want to make sure I have a spot to cook this. Put this. So let's go grab those out of the oven. Chum chum. Okay. This is the favorite. I love sourdough. Let's get our first one out. Beautiful. Got a lovely. And then we're going to go grab my other one. I have to say, I will think keeping them in the fridge where it got a little bit colder, they didn't pop quite as much. They still pop, but normally they pop even more. But they're still pretty darn good. But lesson learned, you don't want to put it in something too cold. Let me get these cooled enough. We're going to take them out off of the trivets. That way I can pull them out and you guys can see them better because it is really hard to see them in their pots. So they're very pretty, but they definitely didn't pop as much. And I think it was because the freezer outside or the fridge was a little bit colder. But you know what? They're still going to taste good. I can tell by the look.
You have a question about the asparagus. What temperature were they baked at? And was there anything put on them for seasoning?
Yes, so they were baked at 450. And we put a little bit of olive oil, black pepper, and garlic salt on them. That's it. Toss them in it. And they were in there for like 8 minutes max. But delicious. Well, guys, thank you for joining us here today. We made our lovely crispy salmon with a fresh hollandaise sauce, asparagus, smashed potatoes, and then our 2 sourdoughs. We have our traditional and our Italian herbs and cheese. Well, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for joining us again. Feel free to comment and ask us any questions that you have about cooking or any recipes you'd like to see us to try. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe.